Hello, class. This is Kayla Stevens, and I was reading the quote from Ron Edmonds, and I had to read it several times to kind of really, truly comprehend what it means. But basically, it's saying that we can teach these students, but there's going to be obstacles that we run into, and um, as educators, we run into a lot of obstacles, but one of the main things is that parent involvement is a major concern, especially in a low income school like where I work. There's not a whole lot of parent involvement, and like we had open house last week, and there was only 7 parents that showed up out of 20, and so there's not a whole lot of support from that end, and it's really sad because I teach first grade, so these are young kids, and already there's not a whole lot of parent involvement and a lot of support from that end, and so it's almost my job to be there to support them, to get them through their education, and to teach them everything they know because they might not be learning these things at home. They might not be practicing reading at home, or whatever the case may be. They often don't even turn in their homework because the parents aren't working with them at home. So I think this is a major concern across all grade levels. So it's something that we really truly need to focus on as educators, and try to get that support from parents, and get them involved, um, and just letting them help their kids. They need to be there for them, and so it's difficult as a teacher to see that, but it's motivation for me to push them and get them where they need to be, especially for my young students. Um, and then the second part of this video is where I find motivation, and where I've found motivation in my education. And this is something that I kind of had a hard time with. I always found motivation for math. I always enjoyed it. I could get it. I understood it. And I could really grasp every aspect of math. And so that was never a struggle for me. But reading was a struggle for me, and comprehending what I would read. I could read an entire book or an entire passage, and not even know what I just read. And so that was always a struggle. And it wasn't even until college till I finally found the motivation to read, and to read for pleasure, because I never read for pleasure. And so it wasn't until my college English class where I read a passage, read it 3 or 4 times, and still couldn't even understand. And I was like, there's got to be something. I've got to do something to where this isn't a struggle for me. Because how am I going to be a teacher? How am I going to educate my students if I can't even read a passage myself and understand it? So I kind of had to train my own self to understand and comprehend what I was reading. And once I did that, I can't even explain how I did it, but I did it, and now I don't struggle with reading. I don't struggle with comprehending, and so it's just finding what you got to do, and do it so you can be successful. And that's something that I want to instill in my students, so they can find that motivation even early, even as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever. They need to find that motivation, faster than I did. I didn't find that motivation till I was, 18, 19. So I really want them to find that motivation, and that whatever inspires them, and whatever they need to be successful, because I don't want them to struggle like I did growing up. I almost failed what it was, not the STAR test back then, it was the TAKS test when I was in school, and I almost failed the reading TAKS test one year because I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't do it. And so once I finally found that motivation and that desire to read and to enjoy it, I've been successful ever since. And now I'm getting my master's, and I'm doing well at it. And it's amazing how whenever you find that motivation and that desire to learn, you can move mountains, as they say. So it's just been an amazing experience, and I hope to instill that in my students and maybe my kids one day. So